From the Detroit Free Press, I'm Brian Todd with today's Voice Briefing. It's Monday, October 14th, 2024.
I'm Andrew Burkle with the Free Press Sports Department. And what should have been a crowning achievement for the Detroit Lions on Sunday became a nightmare in the blink of an eye. After giving up a field goal on the opening drive, the Lions beat the Cowboys about as badly as a team can be beat in the NFL. The Lions could do no wrong. Their offensive line was creating huge holes for the run game. Goff had all day to pass, and guys were wide open. Their defense made everything look impossible for the Cowboys. And when Dak Prescott did move the team into a potential scoring position, there was usually some type of turnover to take it right back. The Lions were even breaking out all of their trick plays as an extra way to stick it to the Cowboys after last year's controversial loss because of a questionable flag. That all sounds great, right? Well, right in the middle of this decimation, about the worst thing that could happen to the Lions did. Aiden Hutchinson was doing Aiden Hutchinson things and found himself in the backfield in the third quarter, wrapping up Dak Prescott for his 7.5 sack this season. The problem was when he was bringing Prescott down, his left leg went flying into Lee McNeil's leg as he was standing nearby, and right away, you could tell it was not good. Hutchinson was eventually taken off the field on a stretcher as players from both teams surrounded him on the field to show as much support as they could. The life was sucked out of the stadium, but the Lions didn't take their foot off the gas and ended up beating the Cowboys 47-9 in what can only be described as a statement win. After the game, the Lions announced that Hutchinson suffered a broken tibia and was taken to the hospital for immediate surgery. So where does that leave this Lions team? It's honestly really hard to say. Hutchinson is one of their emotional leaders and was a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. It's impossible to quantify this loss. With that said, this is the NFL and the show goes on. The Lions will now have to try to find ways to mimic some of what Hutchinson does, either through a trade or from other guys on their roster. It's a tall task for sure, but one you know Dan Campbell and company won't shy away from.
I'm Frank Witzel with the Detroit Free Press. Michiganders and skywatchers in other parts of North America got a glimpse of the northern lights last week, which space prediction scientists have said is more likely this year than others because the sun is at the peak of its activity cycle. If you miss them, you'll probably get another chance. The aurora borealis, or northern lights, is a natural light display in the sky. Usually, they're visible closest to the poles, but sometimes, as they were Thursday, can be seen closer to the equator. Sightings Thursday night were as far south as Kentucky. For many, the lights are on their bucket list. According to modern science, the lights are caused by solar winds, what scientists would call disturbance in the Earth's magnetosphere, and result in the heavenly show. Scientists have found that every 11 years, there's more magnetic solar activity, which causes sunspots and the lights. It's now the height of the cycle, what explanatory news site Fox called a rambunctious year for space weather.
I'm Claire Hendrickson for the Detroit Free Press. Vice President Kamala Harris is expected in Detroit Tuesday for a conversation with radio show host Charlamagne tha God of The Breakfast Club. Harris was last in Detroit for a Labor Day campaign event where she addressed union members. Her scheduled appearance in the Motor City comes with less than a month until Election Day on November 5th. She faces a tight race against Republican former President Donald Trump, and battleground Michigan could play a decisive role in the outcome. Ahead of Harris's expected return to Michigan's biggest city and a Democratic stronghold, Trump spoke at the Detroit Economic Club. During his remarks, he said that if Harris is elected, the entire U.S. would be like Detroit, drawing heated pushback from Michigan Democrats and prompting an ad from the Harris campaign highlighting revitalization efforts in Detroit to portray it as America's comeback town.
Find more from the Detroit Free Press on Freep.com. That's FREP.com. Thanks for listening, and you'll hear more from us tomorrow.